What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1994 Nissan D21 Hardbody. Up front is a 2.4-liter inline-4, and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now, I'm super excited to be driving this truck for two main reasons. First of all, it's super clean. It actually came from Oregon, where they don't use that pesky salt, and so it has survived the test of time. But the second reason is that this truck is actually the star of one of my favorite movies of all time, and we'll talk about that with the final thoughts segment if you're looking for film recommendations. But if you would like your vehicle filmed here on the Shooting Cars YouTube channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. I come out to you, and your car would get featured just like this hardbody you're seeing now. But let's get back to that 2.4-liter inline-4. Probably one of the most famous parts of the truck because it was shared with the ever so popular Nissan 240SX. This is the KA24, and it makes about 130 horsepower. Does that give me a ton of bragging rights on Saturday night out with the fellas? No, but I promise you it's wound for sound and a good engine. Not to mention, with the 240SX being such a popular car, the aftermarket goes crazy and loves it and supports it. Like I said, paired to it, 5-speed manual transmission. I really like the throw. I like the feeling of it. It's very Japanese 90, which I think are some of the best transmissions to ever be offered. They're exact, they're direct, they're no fluff, no butts, no coconuts, and I like that about it. Last but not least, this particular hardbody is rear-wheel drive. It's only a little 2-wheel drive pickup. However, you could have found these with 4-wheel drive as well. So how does it feel to actually drive the Nissan hardbody? It's great. Shifter throw, like I mentioned, fantastic. Engine, great. Visibility, wonderful, and all of those put together make it a really good driving experience. I'm immediately comfortable in this truck. I can see everything, feel everything, and make good judgment calls based off of that information. So, huge props to the Nissan hardbody. But with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 3 gauges. Off to the left is my fuel, in the center is my speedometer, and off to the right is my coolant temperature. I don't get a tachometer, even though this is a manual transmission vehicle, but that's okay. I can drive by sound. On the steering wheel, I also don't get anything. No cruise control for me. Off to the left, I do have a little shelf, as well as a climate control vent, and what would be switches, but since this is a base model, I will never know what those switches would do. Moving on to the door, we do have our manual windows. We do have manual mirrors as well, but they're so manual that there's not even adjustments on the inside. You just got to stick your hand out and move it all around like the Macarena. Moving into the center, we get 2 climate control vents, hazard switch, our gauge dimmer switch, normally found to the left, closer to the gauges. Nissan just shoved it here in the middle. And then we have our climate controls. Recirculating up to the upper left, fan speed to the bottom left, where to send it to the upper right, temperature to the bottom right. Very simple. Then we do have our 12-volt outlet, pop-out ashtray, and an aftermarket radio, because most radios from this era were pretty garbage. And if you want anything modern, you gotta upgrade. Then I do get the shifter on the floor. Like I said, feels great, works great, and I absolutely love it. And I think it looks good too. It looks very 90s, very utility. And I love seeing that. Then I get this little aftermarket center console from like AutoZone or something. It's not the stock cup holders for the hardbody. The hardbody doesn't even have stock cup holders. So it fails the big friggin' bottle test. Then we gotta talk about the seats. I love how well kept these seats are. Really, truly impressed with it. But they are comfortable. They're doing the job, and it's absolutely what I would expect out of a vehicle of this vintage and quality. However, speaking of seats, I do have a back seat, so let's do a jump seat review. There's a lot of cool and great parts about being an automotive YouTuber. This is not one of them. So as you can see, I hope you could see that on the camera, this has little jump seats. They face each other, probably producing some of the most awkward conversations the world has ever seen. But if you absolutely need them, you can have them. This was known as the King Cab, although I don't know what king would have approved this. Certainly not King George in his lunacy. But we're going to try it out. So up and over as they say. And before I make touchdown, Keegan, if I break your seats, I sincerely apologize. I'm just gonna sit and just think about the life choices that led me to this moment, and how I can avoid them for the future. Just look at the seats, enjoy them, soak them in. I feel like one of those oversized teddy bears that were really popular last year for Valentine's Day. You get them for like $100 and they were like 7 feet tall. I also don't know how you could possibly get out of this without showing your neighbors a full lunar eclipse in the middle of the day. Gotta hike these pants up. I don't think anyone's behind me. Let's take a look at the bed. All right, so here is the bed of the Nissan Hardbody. Nothing really crazy. Tailgate here, pop it down. There it is. Which I failed to notice that these windows, for some odd reason, curve up. Why do they need this little top section? I don't know, but they did. Anyway, the reason I was excited to talk about the back here is because this is actually where the Hardbody gets its name. No, it's not because it's made out of metal, but actually because it uses two pieces of metal, one on the outside, one on the inside. Back in the day, it was very, very typical to just have one piece of metal. This thin piece would be stamped on the outside and inside to create the bed. Well, Nissan actually used two pieces of metal, thus giving this truck the nickname, the Hardbody. That's it. So you can take those disgusting jokes and throw them out the door. Okay, I'm sorry. That was too mean. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I love the look of the Hardbody just out of a nostalgia's sake. I tend to call these vehicles macaroni styling because I grew up on macaroni and cheese. It gives me that warm, fuzzy feeling, but outwardly it's not the prettiest thing in the world. So I would say the Hardbody certainly falls into that category. But now let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a Nissan Hardbody? Well, there's a couple of things to note about this truck in particular. First of all, production of these lasted until 1997, where they switched over to the Nissan Frontier. The Nissan Frontier is just a continuation of the Hardbody, which I found to be interesting. Another little fact I found interesting was that this King Cab was actually designed here in the United States, down in San Diego. So this truck was really meant for American streets. However, the Hardbody was sold abroad. You might have noticed that I have filmed a Hardbody technically before, but that was the Japanese domestic market truck known as the Datsun Diesel. It had a forklift engine in it and was vastly different from the truck I'm showing you now, which is why I want to review this one so bad. The last little bit of information that I found especially interesting was that these were sold in Venezuela up until 2014. They were also sold in Mexico up until 2008. So this really is a very global pickup truck. Not only did we get it here, but many countries got it in many other places. And so my opinions on this truck are wonderful and beautiful. This truck is so fantastic at the job it was originally assigned. It's a simple little pickup that doesn't have any stigma around it. It's not trying to be something it's not. It's not big and brawny for the sake of being big and brawny. And that, I adore that about this truck. But what I adore more and what I'm more excited for is to talk about one of my favorite movies ever. And that will require an outfit change. Throughout the 1990s, there was a dealership down in Texas that would run a contest every year. They would select a handful of people to participate in what they called hands on a Hardbody. The whole objective of the contest was that the last person to take their hand off of the truck got to keep the truck. The 1995 competition was actually documented in my favorite movie, Hands on a Hardbody, which came out in 1997. And in that movie, you see people keeping their hand on the Hardbody pickup truck, but it gets so much more interesting than that. There's a guy who will only eat Snickers bars the whole time. There's a lady who had a Walkman that would only listen to gospel music and would sing throughout the competition. There was a guy who bragged about having the air conditioning unit from a Kmart, and he could make his house below freezing if he wanted to.
Can you explain to me what a 20-ton air...
20-ton air unit is big enough to cool that Kmart store right there. And the only reason I've got a 20-ton is because I got a good buy on it in Paris, Texas.
And you might be thinking, how long did this competition last? 10 hours, 12 hours? Did it go a full 24 hours? Yes, it did. It went over 85 hours. People stood there with their hands on a hardbody pickup truck trying to win it. It is one of the most fascinating films I have ever seen, and I try to rewatch it at least once a year. I actually bought this getup on Amazon specifically, the gardening gloves with blue wrists and the yellow t-shirt, to mimic what they wore during the competition. If you learned anything from this review, please go check out the movie Hands on a Hardbody. If for no other reason, it's at a dealership, a Nissan dealership in the 1990s, and there's a bunch of mint 240SXs in the background, tons of stuff to look at, and it's just an interesting look at the human psyche. I'll leave a link as the pinned comment down below if you would like to watch it for yourself. If you're into hard bodies or just curious about something new and interesting to watch, I cannot recommend this enough. And if you have watched Hands on a Hardbody, please leave a comment down below. But that's why I was so excited to drive this pickup truck. I lose. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Keegan for letting me take this thing out. I was so excited to drive such a cool, unique, and just fantastic example of a Nissan hardbody. I can finally check this off my list, a USDM hardbody, which I've been wanting to film for over half a decade at least. And Keegan is the one to thank for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.